What would your advice be for anybody who is going through it or might come across cancer or something like that in the future?
Yeah, I think, the best advice I can give is go your own way. Just go your own way, be your own person, take everything with a grain of salt, but trust your instincts and your gut feelings of what you feel. But you also really need to lean into your family and just make sure that you're all on the same page. Because if you're not, I see where that 90% divorce is 100% possible. And I think that you don't allow yourself to bring your family together in those kind of situations, because you can become isolated and completely fearful and scared. And one person lives at the hospital and one person lives at home, and you're trying to juggle jobs and family and marriage, and you didn't feel what I felt, and I can't believe you weren't there, and things really start unraveling. And so I think that if you can go your own way, bring your family together, keep them together, keep consistent communication, but keep optimistic and positive, because there are miracles and stories out there that happen every single day. And it can certainly happen.
Well, all of that, I'm going to lead into this in a very awful way. It's a lot of gray and a lot of darkness. So leading to out of the gray and into the light, the book comes.
Yeah.
Again, sort of by accident, you said.
Yeah.
How does this evolve?
Yeah, so the story really came from a point of almost self-destruction of myself. We had come through the cancer. We were in remission with our daughter. But like I told you earlier, there was something always just burning. And it led through and it bled through this situation, even more powerful of, now this has happened to our family. There had to be something more. And I think with me, I didn't handle and deal with the situation of what my daughter went through and what our family went through. We were going on autopilot and so fast that we really didn't do the self-care for ourselves that we needed. We didn't dig into what was happening. We just kind of brushed it under the rug and we all went on. We didn't dive into what my husband was dealing with through all of this. I mean, we went to counseling, don't get me wrong. We did a lot of counseling. We did several different types of counseling, but the resources weren't there. We weren't given an opportunity to have any type of community that could just understand what we were going through and be able to give us what each of us needed. And I think that a lot of people feel that way going through this. You're on this situation where you don't know what to expect. And I'm sorry, if you don't have the finances for one of them or both of them to quit their jobs and completely put your 100% into what's going on, we go on every single day on autopilot trying to just work, figure it out, pay the bills. There are things that just slip through the cracks. And unfortunately, I let very important things slip through the cracks of my own well-being, my own needs, my own self-care, and just dealing with what I went through. And I wasn't happy. I wasn't finding joy. There was something that was just completely missing. That trauma affected me in ways that I didn't know, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And so I'm not a very good listener sometimes. And I think for me, I wasn't paying attention to what was happening, what God was trying to tell me. Like, I keep nudging you. You're just not listening. This happened in your life. It's not for you to push under the rug. There's a lot of meaning behind this. You're just not seeing what your purpose was, what your why is. What am I wanting? What do I want? Like, I just wasn't paying attention to the voices that were occurring. And so I ended up literally just crying more than I ever did when my daughter went through all of her diagnosis and through being in the hospital. And I remember breaking down one morning and dropping her off to school. She goes to a Christian academy in St. Louis, and my car just kind of drove itself up to the parking lot above, and it's our church. And I remember walking in and crying for about 3 hours and just surrendering everything that I had. Let my walls down. The surrender was there, asking what I needed to do. I couldn't keep up this pace. I couldn't continue what I was doing. I couldn't find joy. I couldn't find happiness. But yet, you'd look at me and I was at the top of my game with my company. Once again, President's Club, Rookie of the Year, awards. Something really immense was missing in my life. And God had just brought me to this point where I needed to do something about it. And I remembered, like I said, not being able to sleep or eat or function because those videos just played in my head and memories that I couldn't remember before had occurred. And I felt that God was just calling me to something different, and I needed to lean into this uncomfort. And I think that God knew that I would, and I did. And that's kind of how everything came around. It was the fall of 2022. And then in the spring of 2023, I began writing the book. And that's where it all unfolded.
And is the book about your story, about everything we talked about, but then coming through it?
It is. I remember journaling about 75 to 100 pages while I was in the hospital of just what was happening. Because one, I had to keep track. I couldn't remember. We couldn't remember medications. I couldn't remember things. Like I literally felt like I was losing my mind. And so I did journal a lot. And so when the book came about, it was being able to look back and giving myself that ability to look back in a different perspective. See things how I saw it then, but see things how I saw it now. And how I had the ability to not control a lot then, but I could control how I saw everything and my perspective of what it looked like now. I could change all the fear and the anger and the feelings that I felt now if I would just look at it in a different perspective and see things in a different way. God wasn't taking us there to dump us in this place of fear and sorrow and hurt. He was taking us to this place that was just going to be so beautiful that I wasn't realizing what was happening. So the book then takes you back, 9 years. And the actual title was going to be Her Perfect Storm. It was the perfect storm that occurred in our daughter because her rare cancer gene actually is never supposed to happen. It starts with the parents. It doesn't start with the individual. So it's this perfect storm that started in her, and it was a perfect storm that started in myself that just brewed and brewed until I was allowed to just surrender everything and be able to give myself grace and the forgiveness that I really needed. And it's all about advocacy, advocating for yourself, for others, but it's being able to find hope in what you're going through, the deepest, the darkest times. There is hope because you're not dumped there and you're not left. You are there with arms wrapped around you and the ability to pick yourself up and make something great if you're willing to see what it is.